There are moments in life when silence weighs more than any word. When you're alone in your room, staring at the ceiling, and something inside you whispers, "You were meant for more than this." It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's insistent, and it won't go away until you answer it. This is the voice that separates those who drift from those who rise, not because it calls to some chosen few, but because most ignore it. The truth is simple but harsh. The universe only moves for the man who moves first. It does not cater to the hesitant. It does not reward the thinker alone. It only reveals its treasures to the man bold enough to act without certainty. And that is what most people never understand. They wait, they plan, they fantasize, but they never move. They mistake potential for power, intention for energy. But life doesn't respond to what you could do. It only answers to what you do. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu speaks of the nature of water. It is soft, it is yielding, but it wears down mountains. Why? Because it moves constantly, without resistance, without ego. Water doesn't ask, "Is this the right time?" It flows where there is space, it adapts, and in doing so, it shapes the world. Action is like water, quiet, humble, but unstoppable. And yet we fear it. We live in an age of overthinking, of endless opinions, of information that paralyzes more than it empowers. And in that noise, we forget that the most successful, fulfilled men in history weren't the smartest. They weren't the most gifted. They were simply the ones who did something, anything, consistently, relentlessly, with faith that the universe would catch up to their decision. Because that's the paradox. The universe doesn't reward those who wait for a sign. The universe rewards those who become the sign. Every major breakthrough begins as a risk. A man quits a job he hates. A student drops out to chase a vision. A father decides to lead differently. In every case, the path was uncertain. But the man walked anyway, and the world somehow made room for him. That's not magic. That's the law of cause and effect. That's the law of vibration. That's universal rhythm at work. You don't get in tune with life by thinking about it. You get in tune by stepping forward, by placing your foot on the path and saying, "I trust," not blindly, but deeply. You trust that your effort means something, that momentum itself is spiritual, that there is divinity in decision, that hesitation is the enemy of manifestation. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That quote alone contains the entire secret. The man who acts becomes. The man who hesitates decays. You can dream about writing a book, building a business, or healing your body, but until you do the first thing, the universe can't help you. Your vision has no magnetism without movement. A prayer with no action is just noise. But a decision, no matter how small, becomes a beacon. The universe is not static. It's alive, responsive, conscious, and it listens to action like a tuning fork responds to sound. It echoes your energy. Multiply your efforts, but only once it feels them. And here's the hidden beauty. Once you act, things begin to change in ways you couldn't have imagined. Not always instantly, not always obviously, but always. A door opens, a person appears, a lesson arrives. Why? Because motion creates resonance, and resonance attracts opportunity. In ancient Stoicism, there is a belief that fate guides the willing but drags the unwilling. What that means is simple. You either flow with life or you fight it. When you take action, you align with the current. When you resist, life drags you by the ankles through lessons you could have walked through standing tall. You were not made to wait for clarity. You were made to create it. And yes, action is frightening. There is no guarantee. But there is this. Regret is always heavier than risk. Ask any man on his deathbed what he would have done differently, and he won't tell you he wished he'd played it safer. He'll tell you he wished he'd acted sooner. He waited for the fear to go away. It never did, because fear doesn't vanish. It fades with motion. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is action in its presence. Think of the archer who waits for the perfect wind. He never releases the arrow, but the one who trusts his training and lets go, he learns, he adapts. He hits the mark eventually, not because he waited, but because he acted again and again. The man who acts becomes a magnet. He becomes a force. Not because he always succeeds, but because he keeps showing up. He becomes undeniable. And the universe, this strange, elegant, mysterious force, begins to move in harmony with him. People notice, circumstances shift, patterns break. Why? Because action is energy, and energy shapes reality. There's a concept in Japanese philosophy called ikigai, your reason for being. But ikigai isn't something you find by thinking in a dark room. You discover it through doing, through small actions that reveal what makes you feel alive. Men are not built to theorize endlessly. We are builders, makers, movers. And when we move in alignment with our truth, the universe provides not just the means, but the meaning. There are men with less talent than you, doing more. There are men with fewer resources, building more. Not because they had a better start, but because they started. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll never begin. Because readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. What you want most is on the other side of a door labeled Act Now. And once you walk through it, 1,000 other doors will appear. But none of them exist until you take the first step. Stop asking if it's the right time. Stop waiting for the fear to pass. Stop looking for the guarantee. There isn't one, but there is a law, a silent one, as old as the stars. The universe responds to the man who dares to initiate. It doesn't always respond how you expect. Sometimes it tests you, it stretches you, it delays your reward, but that's not punishment, that's preparation, that's refinement. Fire does not destroy the sword, it forges it. And you, if you act with faith, consistency, and integrity, you become that sword. Imagine this. A man sits quietly in a dark room. He's tired. He's doubting himself. But somewhere inside, a flicker of courage lights. He gets up. He sends the message. He applies for the role. He books the ticket. He starts the thing that scares him most. The world outside doesn't change overnight, but inside him, something does. The man has shifted from victim to creator, from passive observer to active participant, and the universe takes note. Soon things begin to stir, connections form, new strength emerges. Life, it seems, is finally responding, but it was never about life changing. It was about the man changing his posture. There's a reason ancient warriors meditated before battle, not to eliminate fear, but to focus it, to transmute it into fuel. That same power is in you, but it doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. There is no perfect plan. There is only aligned action, action that feels heavy with meaning, that stirs your blood, that scares you just enough to prove you're alive. And here's the final truth, the one most men learn too late. You do not need permission to act. You never did. The door has always been unlocked. The gate has always been open, but only action turns the handle. The man who waits may have 1,000 ideas, but the man who moves owns one, and that one, if nourished, can feed generations. The man who hesitates may look smart, he may sound wise, but the man who steps into the arena, he lives, he bleeds, he grows, and eventually he wins. So take the shot, make the call, say the words, begin the journey. You will not feel ready, but you will become ready. Because readiness is not a state of mind, it is a side effect of movement. You were not born to watch life, you were born to shape it, and the universe is listening. Not to your dreams, not to your hopes, not even to your prayers. It is listening to your footsteps. So make them loud, make them certain, make them count, and the universe will answer. If this has lit a spark in you, then please like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.